Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astottara Sata Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astottara Sata Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Ki. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki, Ganga Mayi Ki, Yamuna Mayi Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Tulsi Maharani Ki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, Gaura Premanande Hare. Hare Krishna and good morning. Today we will be continuing the reading from the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 23, entitled Maharaj Pritu's Going Back Home. And we will read text 38. please repeat. Vaichetravirya abhitam mahat mahatmya suchakam asmin kritam atimartyam partavim gatim apnuyad. Vaichetraviryan bihitam Vaichetravirya bihitam Mahan Mahatmya Suchakam Mahan Mahatmya Suchakam Asmin Kritam Atimartyam Asmin Kritam Atimartyam Partavim Gatim Apnuyat Partavim Gatim Apnuyat Vaichetravirya bihitam Mahan Mahatmya Suchakam Asmin Kritam Atimartyam Partavim Gatim Apnuyat Vaichetravirya bihitam Mahan Mahatmya Suchakam Asmin Kritam Atimartyam Partavim Gatim Apnuyat. Vaichetravirya, O son of Vichitravirya Vidura, Abhitam, explained, Mahat, great, Mahatmya, greatness, Suchakam, awakening, Asmin, in this, Kritam, performed, Atimartyam, uncommon, Partavim, in connection with Prithu Maharaj, Gatim, advancement, destination, Apnuyat, one should achieve. Translation. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, I have as far as possible spoken the narrations about Prithu Maharaj, which enrich one's devotional attitude. Whoever takes advantage of these benefits also goes back home, back to Godhead, like Maharaj Prithu. Purport. The word Shravayet, mentioned in a previous verse, indicates that one should not only read for himself, but should also induce others to read and hear. That is called preaching. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended this practice, Yara Dekha Tare Kaha Krishna Upadesh. Whomever you meet, simply talk with him about the instructions given by Krishna, or tell him of narrations about Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 7:128. Prithu Maharaja's history of devotional service is as potent as narrations about the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should not make distinctions between the pastimes of the Lord and the activities of Prithu Maharaj. And whenever it is possible, a devotee should attempt to induce others to hear about Prithu Maharaj. One should not only read of his pastimes for one's own benefit, but should induce others to read and hear about them also. In this way, everyone can be benefited. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adigaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, I have, as far as possible, spoken the narrations about Prithu Maharaj, which enrich one's devotional attitude. Whoever takes advantage of these benefits also goes back home, back to Godhead, like Maharaj Prithu. So this section of Srimad Bhagavatam concerning Prithu Maharaj, as related by Maitreya Muni, Maitreya Rishi, is being concluded here with him leaving his body in the most amazing transcendental yogic process. And we find in the description of what a greatly exalted personality Prithu Maharaj was. His appearance was quite astonishing. Anybody remember how he appeared? You don't find that very common these days. Yeah. That's not a common thing, and we don't advise that nowadays scientists try to do that. But very astonishing appearance by the will of the great Brahmanas, and of course ultimately the will of the Supreme Lord, to establish upon this planet someone of a superlative character that can really bring peace and harmony, prosperity and progress to the entire planet. Of course, there are probably many contenders these days that we could consider to be churned, to be destroyed and churned so that a glorious personality could manifest to lead the world that is so full of, conflict and disturbances that are there. We can think of so many people. But anyway, Prithu Maharaj here is being honored by Maitreya Muni, and is being extolled as someone that we can consider to be on the same level as the Supreme Lord. Now this is an interesting concept in our Gaudiya Vaishnava theology, is that we consider Ekala Ishvara Krishna Ara Sababhritya. What does that mean? That Krishna alone, Ekala, He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. God is asamurdva. He is unequaled and unparalleled. No one is equal to or greater than God, right? That's how we understand. And that's what we are taught. So, Ekala Ishvara Krishna, Arasabha Britya. Arasabha Britya, everyone else, Arasabha, are considered his servants. But a deeper aspect of our Vaishnava theology is that the devotee, the exalted devotee of the Lord, is to be considered on the same level as the Lord. Isn't that interesting? On one hand, from a certain perspective, no one's equal to, what to speak of, superior to the Lord, because that's the definition of the Lord, of being God. And everyone else is his servant. But here now, on a deeper level, on a more intimate level, what is being presented here and all over the Vedic scriptures is that the devotee is on the same level. Prithu Maharaj is also considered to be an empowered incarnation of Krishna. He's Jiva Tattva, but he's empowered specifically by the Shakti, by the potency of Krishna to perform a certain task. And he's clearly considered to be amongst the greatest of devotees. We all have heard of the 9 processes of devotional service. Who spoke what the 9 processes of devotional service are? Prahlad Maharaj. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. And for each of these 9 processes, there is an exemplar or a person who best exemplified how to practice each of these 9 processes. Right? For instance, Shravanam, who best exemplified the process of hearing? Parikshit Maharaj. Who can sit in Bhagavatam class for 7 days and 7 nights without eating or drinking, falling off to sleep? Parikshit Maharaj did it. He was able to do it. Attentive. And one of the reasons why he was able to do it, well, one, he had taste, and other, he knew, this is serious business. I need to do this. Otherwise, he was right next to the Ganga, but as we say in Hindi, Ganga Mai Ki Jai. It's all finished for him. Right? Because there was purpose. His attendance of Bhagavatam class was purposeful. It wasn't to tick the proverbial register that the temple president, the temple commander have they attended Bhagavatam class or not. But there was purpose in it. So he is the exemplar of hearing. Of chanting or kirtanam, who is the perfect person that exemplified? Sukadev Goswami. And of course, we just heard the glories of Prahlad Maharaj. He perfectly exemplified Vishnu Smaranam, remembering God. Constantly, Krishna was there, right in his mind. Even if he tried to get Krishna out of his mind, he wasn't able to. Of course, on a much more esoteric level, right? The gopis of Vrindavan, headed by Srimati Radharani, whose appearance day we are celebrating on Sunday, they exemplified all these 9 processes better than absolutely anyone, right? For instance, remembering Krishna. Like when Uddhava goes to Vrindavan and he tells the gopis, just try to think of Krishna, just try to remember Krishna. And they tell Uddhava, what's your problem? That is not our problem. Remembering Krishna is not our problem. That's the problem. We try so hard to forget him that we fail. We can't do it. Anyway, that's another topic. The gopis of Vrindavan, they're the highest. Like this, we can count all these 9 processes of devotional service, and each one has an exemplar. And the exemplar, or rather, how can I put it? What does Prithu Maharaj? He's the exemplar of one of the 9 processes. What is he perfect at? How did he attain perfection? Through what process? Through worshipping the deity in the temple. This is what he's famous for. Following very carefully the rules and regulations of deity worship and offering everything he has for the service of the deity. This is what it means to be perfect in deity worship. So he is exemplified, he is glorified for exemplifying the process of archana. So, and also to be considered in this way by the acharyas means that Prithu Maharaj is no ordinary devotee. He's very, very exalted. And exalted means to be raised above everyone else. Right? That's what it means to exalt, to raise him above everyone else. To the level of the Supreme Lord, to the same level. We know that this is not something that's against our scripture, to raise the devotee or to see the devotee on the same level as the Lord. Because when great devotees, we chant this verse every day, right? In the morning at Mangalarati. Shakshad Haritve Na Samasta Shastres. All the revealed scriptures, Na Samasta, all the scriptures are saying what? Shakshad Hari. That the great devotee is to be considered as good as God. Not just as good, Shakshad Hari, to be seen as directly the Lord manifest. Now this can get confusing. So is the devotee God? Is the devotee not God? Right? This is Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. The simultaneous oneness with the Lord, but difference. So we must appreciate this. I remember His Holiness Kadambakana Maharaj, he tells this little exchange he had once with His Grace Brahmananda Prabhu. Brahmananda Prabhu is a legend amongst legends in ISKCON. You get legends, but then you get legends even amongst the legends. And that's Brahmananda Prabhu, wonderful disciple of Prabhupada, who Prabhupada clearly had so much of affection for. But once, maybe in the maybe 1970 or so, he made a philosophical mistake, very grave philosophical mistake, which he got heavily punished for. He started developing the idea that Prabhupada was God. He developed this idea, and he got quite reprimanded for that. So he was telling His Holiness Kadambakana Swami, as they were waiting in Mayapur at the gate for the transcendental body of Tamal Krishna Maharaj to come back to Mayapur Dham after Maharaj had passed away in this accident. And he was telling Kadambakana Maharaj, I once made the mistake thinking that Prabhupada is God. But now I have realized my error, and I don't think he is God. Actually, I think he is greater than God. He says like that. Because through Prabhupada, through the great devotee, you get Krishna. You can't get Krishna through Krishna. You understand? Krishna can't give you himself. Krishna can't give you himself. But the devotee who has Krishna, he can give. So he sees the great devotee, like in this case Prabhupada, as being greater than Krishna. So this is our process. We know Krishna is the goal, he is Param Gati. And the means and the way to approach Krishna and secure Krishna in our heart is through the mercy and the blessings and the grace of his dear devotee. This is our process. Trying to directly go to Krishna and petition Krishna, you are mine, like this, that doesn't work. Krishna doesn't like that approach. He doesn't like that approach. What does he say? Ye me bhakta jana partha. He tells Arjuna in the Adi Purana, as recorded in the Adi Purana, that anyone who claims to be my devotee, I do not consider them to be my devotee. Rather, someone who is the devotee of my devotee, I accept that person. This is Krishna's nature. This is Krishna's position on approaching him. Also, the greatest of all devotees, Lord Shiva, what does he say to his wife in this connection? Aradhananam sarvesham. That of all the types of worship, all the types of aradhanas, Vishnur aradhanam param. The topmost form of worship is the worship of Krishna or Vishnu. He is the topmost person to be worshipped. But then Lord Shiva says, Tasmat parataram devi. He says, but higher than that, my dear Devi, is tadiyanam samarchanam, is the worship of my devotees. So the highest worship is the worship of Vishnu, but even higher than that. This is an interesting technique we use in our Shastras. The highest, or the topmost, and even higher than topmost, and then even higher than the higher of topmost. Because there's no limit to the glories of Krishna. When you're considering the topics of something that's unlimited, how can there be a ceiling to it? You reach a ceiling, but then here you realize there's something higher than that ceiling. Like we say, Krishna can be perfect, and he can be more perfect, but then he's most perfect somewhere. So this is the concept of unlimited, and it is inconceivable. It just keeps growing and growing and growing, because Krishna is unlimited. He is unlimited. So this is important. We are seeing a wonderful presentation by Maitreya Muni appreciating the position of a devotee. Now this could then maybe confuse us or mislead us into thinking that only devotees of that exalted level are to be honored and respected. And we find that sometimes in our tradition, in our contemporary tradition, that we only want to honor and respect someone that's clearly or maybe stamped as being senior. And we may lose sight of someone sitting right next to us that's exalted, that's advanced, that we can worship. Of course, there is a transcendental form of hierarchy, and there are great devotees, there are mediocre devotees, and there are junior devotees, there are neophyte devotees, and we are trained in our etiquette, in our Vaishnava etiquette, to honor different levels of devotees, to approach different levels of devotees in different ways, in ways that are appropriate to their level of advancement. Still, what is being presented here, at least what I am getting out of it, is that the concept must be in place, that devotees are worshipable. Krishna says in the 11th canto when speaking to Uddhava, Mad Bhakta Puja Vyadika, that first we must worship the devotee. So all devotees are worshipable. And you know how you start by worshipping devotees? Anybody can say? Okay, that's good, serving them. But what's the first thing to do when worshipping a devotee? And if you don't do it, the Shastra says it's an offense. If you don't do it. Offer obeisances, okay? But even before that, it's about an emotion. Being happy when you see the devotee. If we are not happy when we see the devotee, oops, aparad. But we know we fall short of that sometimes. We see one devotee walking, oh, let me walk the other way. I don't want to have to interact with the person. I don't want to have to acknowledge the person. Does that fall by the definition of being happy when you see a devotee? Does that fall into the realm of aparad then? It could subtly fall in there. So let's, I see sometimes the marquee poses as a nice, interesting barrier. I mean, anyway, you all know this, right? Let's walk around this way or let's walk around that way, just so that I don't have to be happy. No, every devotee, we should be happy. Why? Because we should have faith that this person loves Krishna to some extent. It may not be to the extent of my guru, it may not be to the extent of Prabhupada or the great acharyas, but they have some love for Krishna. And if I want to please Krishna, then I must honor, we must appreciate the level of love that they have for Krishna. Because that is what makes Krishna happy. That is what makes Krishna happy. So this, I feel, is what this pastime is trying to teach me here. It's using clearly a very exalted personality as the example, But I don't want to only see the exalted personalities as recipients of my happiness or stimulus for my happiness. I want to see all devotees. That doesn't mean now we become all, gather in circles with our musical instruments or hold hands and sing, as they say, kumbaya, and everybody loves each other. We, artificially touch each other's feet, whatever. No. But at least the basis of our interactions with each other, even though we may disagree with each other, we may sometimes get frustrated with each other, even our disagreements and frustration must have the foundation of respect with each other, for each other. That must be there. That must be there. Prabhupada would sometimes say, now you'll get into the room, lock the door, fight like cats and dogs, and come to some solution if there's a management decision or something. But never ever disrespect each other. This is important. And always hold true, hold faith that this person has come to Krishna. There must be some affection. Why would someone come to Krishna then? I mean, look at us here. This is so weird. Our dressing, the tilak, the whole external environment is so different from what normal people do. So for someone to come into this temple and stay with us or to join the process means there's something there. Something has touched them. Something has touched them. And we must honor that which has touched them and honor that person. I remember His Holiness Bhakti Charaswami once said in a Sunday class that when someone new comes into the temple, he was giving the guidance on how we should view that person. We should view that person coming here as our long lost sibling who for some reason got lost somewhere or ran away from home due to some trauma or whatever, or they got lost. You know how sometimes children get lost in a supermarket and the parents go frantic, or the elder children go, or the elder siblings go frantic looking for them, and when they find them, they feel so much of relief and will do anything to keep them and hold them and, safe. So that's how we describe we must see someone coming to the temple, somebody new coming to the temple, with such relief. Yes, they've come. Not that someone new or even a devotee comes and we try our best to run away from the responsibility of interacting with them in some way, Because here Prabhupada twice now, in the verse before and purport, and now he's giving this point. He could have spoken about so many other things in relation to the verse, but he speaks about the duty of the person who has heard about the glories of Prita Maharaj or the glories of a devotee. He doesn't say, right, it is our duty to hear about the glories of Prithu. What does he say after that? It's our responsibility to induce, I love that word, to induce others to hear and chant. Sometimes we can get very preachy, right? And take the Bhagavad Gita, like Bhagavad Gita bashers, bashing people with the Bhagavad Gita, get this into your thick skull, don't you all know? No, but he uses the word induce, and he says this is preaching. And Prabhupada uses the sutra for the defining sutra for preaching. He uses in the purport, Yara deke tare kahe Krishna upadesh. That whoever you meet, wherever you go and whomever you meet, speak to them about Krishna. Try to induce, try to instill, try to inspire some mood in their hearts to turn towards Krishna. Try to kindle that natural attraction that they have for Krishna. Jivarya Swarupa hoy Krishnera Nityadas. No, what's that verse? Sorry. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunai Shravanadi Sudhe Chite Kaure Yodai. Nitya Siddha Krishna. Love of God is eternally situated in everyone's heart. Everyone's heart. I'm trying to think of who are the big demons of the world today. But nowadays, if you mention someone's name, there's another movement that supports them. They'll take me to court. And everybody's got a right about everything. Like Bhakti Tirtha Swami used to say, the problem today is that everybody's got so many rights that nothing is wrong anymore. It's such a problem, right? It is such a problem. You have to respect everything, any nonsense even, because somebody dreamt it up. Anyway, let's not get into my pet peeve about the world today. This is my truth, even though it's false, but it's my truth, and I have to respect it. Anyway, I can imagine what Maharaj would have said if he were present, or Prabhupada for that matter. We have to. Anyway, I'm thinking of somebody, but let's not mention their names. Even they have love of Krishna in their hearts. Even Stalin, even Hitler had love of Krishna in their hearts. Can you imagine that? But Shravan Adi Sudechite, just by the process of hearing, we can kindle that fire of love of Krishna to come out of their hearts. This is what a devotee is meant to do. Not just stop at hearing for our benefit, but somehow induce others in some appropriate way, some relevant way. This is preaching. This is preaching. And this is a responsibility Prabhupada is investing in all of us. We must hear and chant for our purification. As Vaisheshika Prabhu would say, fill our cup as much as possible, and the cup is overflowing, and then you share that with others. So we must hear and chant about devotees like Prithu Maharaj, read the Bhagavatam, and we can't let it stop there. Somehow or the other, maybe it's direct or indirectly, we must induce others to also hear about Prithu Maharaj. And the only authentic way we can induce others to hear about the Bhagavatam, hear about Krishna consciousness, is ourselves developing a genuine taste for it. Because taste is contagious. Ruchi is contagious. If you want to develop taste, you associate with devotees who have taste. Right? Because it's contagious. You see, sometimes devotees visit, great devotees, senior devotees, and you're just naturally drawn to them. Right? You're just naturally drawn to want to hear and chant with them. It's because it's contagious. There's something. It's not an obligation. Yes, in a certain way, sadhana means practice. Like exercising the body. It's not natural to us at first. Forget it. It's like the last thing we want to do. Yesterday in the evening, I thought, yes, I'm going to go for a very brisk power walk. I put my track pants on, I put my socks, I'm ready to... And I just slumped into the sofa in my room and, okay, all right. What to do? But if there's others around that also are going to go on the strong power walk, hey, come on, let's go, then... So it takes effort, So we don't have taste for that. Similarly, process of Krishna consciousness on the surface, because we're so covered, we may not have taste for it readily. But when someone comes along that, brimming with taste, we get naturally attracted. So when we associate with people whose goal is very clear, their practice is very clear, and it's not obligatory in how they execute devotional service. It's one out of willingness. It's one out of enthusiasm. Then they are very, very attractive. But even if we don't have those persons, we still have to strive. So yes, coming back to the point, what is the best way to induce people is by developing taste, and alongside taste, by developing compassion. And one way to develop compassion is to just remember where you came from. Right? Just try and remember what a situation you came from, and think how you were saved. How you were blessed with the taste for Krishna consciousness, with the practice for Krishna consciousness. And try to share the same benefit. Because once we have been blessed by the taste of Krishna consciousness, automatically a debt has been incurred. Automatically. Whether we like it or not, a debt has been incurred. And the only way to repay that debt is through a practice of gratitude. To be grateful. Kritagya. To at least know what benefit we've received from someone, by Krishna's mercy, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy. And then not just knowing and feeling, oh, I feel so grateful. There's one. It's one of these modern day lines: develop gratitude, acts of gratitude, gratitude cards, write it. No. Krishna consciousness goes beyond just all these external things. Gratitude is a verb. It's action. That now how to repay that debt of gratitude is by then, with genuine feeling, inducing someone else to turn their consciousness to this merciful process of Krishna consciousness. That's how we repay. And it can be direct, like preachers are going out, book distributors, people giving class, just speaking to people. Or it can be to support the processes that we find in our institution. Help the preachers, manage the situation where we bring conditioned souls to become attracted to the process of Krishna consciousness, but find some way in order to induce others. There was a discussion I was reading. I don't know if I can find it quickly, but an amazing letter of can I find it? Oh, I can. A letter of Srila Prabhupada. I don't know why it came up in my letter reading, but somehow it came up. I was reading a lot of Prabhupada's letters. And Prabhupada says, regarding your question about the controversial talks going on, I don't know what exactly the controversial talks were going on. I got a sense of it, but I'm not sure exactly what. This kind of talk is not befitting my advanced students. This is childish. In Krishna's service, there is no inferior or superior. Deity worship is just as important as book distribution. It is not material. And then Prabhupada quotes that verse by Prahlad Maharaj, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Then he says, Shravanam Kirtanam is the beginning, to chant and hear. Book distribution is under this category of Shravanam Kirtanam. The next item is Smaranam. If somebody simply remembers the Supreme Lord, that is also as good as Shravanam Kirtanam. Then there is Archanam. That is also as good as the others. But one who simply engages in Archanam, listen to this, pujaris, whoops. But one who simply engages in Archanam and does nothing of Shravanam Kirtanam, his position becomes in the material field. Quite a statement, but still there's the bigger statement that it's all equal, but especially in this age of Kali, he quotes Jiva Goswami later, if one is not doing Shravanam Kirtanam, then it's a problem. What did he say? Any one of the 9 processes is as good as the other. There is no question of inferior or superior. But out of all of them, Shravanam Kirtanam is very important. Even if there is Archanam for sanctifying the contaminated mind, it must be accompanied by Shravanam Kirtanam. So how does one practice, how does the pujari, whose whole day is focused on worshipping the deity, how do they practice Shravanam Kirtanam? Of course, hearing and chanting, at least that must be there, the physical act of hearing and chanting. But also, book distribution, Prabhupada says, is under the category of Shravanam Kirtanam. By serving the deity, by cooking for the deity, or cleaning the temple in such a way, thinking that I pray that my service will be so pleasing to the Lord that when someone walks into the temple, they can immediately be attracted by the Lord's pleasure. If they have that attitude and consciousness when worshipping the deity, then that is good as directly preaching. It's as good as it. But that understanding must be in place. How deity worship is directly preaching. How food for life is directly preaching. As maintaining the temple is direct preaching. It must be like that. Okay, what else did I want to share with y'all? Anyway, the main point that really struck me was how important it is to see the exalted quality, the exalted position of the devotee in relation to Krishna. In relation to Krishna, this is essential that we must appreciate and understand. Because in one sense, what is the meaning of Vishnu or Krishna without the Vaishnavas? What meaning does Vishnu have to us? Right? Without the Vaishnavas. There's three things we hear in Shastra. Bhakti, Bhagavan and Bhakta. You cannot separate one from the other. If Bhakti, of course, is the process of devotional service, Bhagavan is God, Krishna, and Bhakta is the devotee. Can you take out one and have a complete view? No, all three have to be there. So without the devotee, what is the meaning of God? There's no meaning. Without God, what is the meaning of the devotee? What is the purpose of the devotee? And Krishna himself, we know, he lives for his devotees. Right? He exists for his devotees. Without his devotees, he would not be able to exist by his own admission. When we read Shastras like Brihad Bhagavatamrita, we witness Krishna's deep feelings for his devotees. So deep. So deep. And we find Krishna, not only are we extolling the glories of his devotees, trying to establish how important they are on the same level, Krishna himself has the same mood. That he's the best or the most relishable presentation of himself is to be seen as a devotee of his devotee. We heard in one nice, I wonder whether it was just some dramatic license, but I liked it. In the movie on Sunday that we watched, there's this section where Prahlad is being carried by this gigantic form of Narayan, and he's asking Prahlad, how can I serve you? And Prahlad is very embarrassed. That how can, you are the Lord, you are how can you serve me? And the Lord is saying, but for devotees like you, Prahlad, I find no greater position than being your servant. This is God's mood. Just like Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest scripture explaining the position and the glories and the pastimes of Krishna. Right? It is Krishna himself. And how does Krishna first reveal himself in the Bhagavatam, in the first canto? How does he first reveal himself? They say first impressions. You must make the best first. Your best self must come out when someone sees you first, right? So how does Krishna manifest himself in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam? He's serving Arjuna. He's not sitting on a big throne and everybody worshipping, this is how people must know me at the first instance. No. He's presenting himself as a servant of his devotees, driving the chariot of his devotee. We were discussing the other day. You know what it means to be a chariot driver of a warrior? Because you're in a war. It's not like moving along very nicely, cruising on some nice pave. No, it's like rushed. There's like noises, there's bugles, there's war screams. That the charioteer can't hear what the archer or the warrior wants him to do. He has to be touched. So when Krishna is driving the chariot, how is Arjuna directing Krishna? With his feet. Hitting him on the left side to turn left. Hitting him on the right side to turn right. How would you feel if someone's hitting you with their feet? Annoyed, right? But this is Krishna's service. He's so enlivened to serve in this way. So enlivened. Like the Rajasuya sacrifice of Maharaj Yudhisthira. What was Krishna's role in the Rajasuya sacrifice? Anybody read about that in Mahabharata? Everyone had a role, right? Arjuna had a role. Bhima, you can guess what Bhima's role was. Anybody can guess? His name is Vrikodar, one who is a voracious eater. So he was in charge of the kitchen. He was in charge of the kitchen. Duryodhana, if I can remember correctly, wow, poor guy. He was in charge of receiving all the gifts that were coming. If you know Duryodhana, how traumatic that must have been for him. And like that, everyone had roles. And Krishna's role, can you imagine? This is Krishna's role. If any of us have a tendency to be superior to others or play God, understand what God's role is in the Rajasuya sacrifice. He was in charge of guest reception. To receive all the guests coming with warm, loving words, with sandalwood, with garland, and to wash their feet. This was Krishna's service at the Rajasuya sacrifice. So Krishna is showing by his own example how important it is to worship and respect the devotees. We must be influenced in some way by that. Must be influenced in some way. Okay, with that we'll stop here. Are there any comments or questions anybody has? All right, we will. Okay, we have one.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just a note, it's about Krishna and, let's say, devotees, God and ordinary mortals. There is a difference in quantity.
Yeah.
Also, the purpose of Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya for this reverence of devotees is for continuance of the movement. That's the only way we can continue, go forward, preaching. If we don't do that, then it'll die somewhere along the line. Prabhupada makes sure in the purports he sends a strong message to that effect.
Well, the ultimate purpose of our movement is to please Krishna. We must always align all our practices, our thinking, our vision to this basic foundational aspect of our movement. Will this please Krishna? This is the whole purpose of our existence, how to please Krishna. And we learn from the acharyas and the scriptures what Krishna likes, what he doesn't like, and how to please him. And we simply follow that. And if we hear from all these numerous verses, I just quoted a few here, that Krishna is very pleased when we worship his devotees, then that's what we do. And if a side benefit, an important side benefit, like you suggest, like you correctly suggest, is that it perpetuates our movement, wonderful. But the main thing why we worship devotees is because they are worshipable. Because it pleases Krishna so much. Mad bhakta puja vyadika. This is Krishna's own words. First, before me, worship my devotee. Of course, there are also very important practical reasons for that, one of which you mentioned. It's very important. And there are others as well, out of etiquette, out of safety, for our own practice of devotional service, that we worship the devotees. But ultimately, it's all done because it pleases Krishna. Ultimately. And the other point you made, that's good to clarify that while we are saying that we are on the same level, we are one with, we are avesh, we are one with Krishna in quality, but we can never be one with Krishna in quantity. We can never be one with him.
Just an example, when the Chandal king met Radha Madhava, when he returned, he was smelling like an old field of jasmines.
Yeah.
You know, he inherited that from Krishna. So an ordinary person wouldn't be able to do that.
True. True. Anything else? Yes. Microphone?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, just a technical question, I guess. With Prita Maharaj, and we see him being the emblem for Archanam, but in the chapters that we hear in the Bhagavatam, we hardly hear much about Archanam. You know, he's the Kshatriya, he's the ruler, and then suddenly it's Archanam.
Yeah, we are not reading the full account of him. The Bhagavatam is giving a certain, other Puranas, other accounts that will describe his attention to Archanam. Yeah, there will be others, or else the Acharyas wouldn't have suggested that, Yeah, correct. All right, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.